Welcome to the Woodstock Podcast Extra Branch.
Hello.
Yes, mate, how are you?
All right, Rory, how are you keeping?
I'm all right, mate. How are you? I can hear you.
Good.
I can't see you though at the minute. I can't see the beautiful visage that is Owen Colgan.
I'm trying to see. I haven't used Zoom so many times. I'm just trying to figure out which. Oh, here it is. Yeah, down bottom left.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. How are you keeping?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Good, very good. Yeah, nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say that at the start, where it's like we've been in each other's sort of, I don't know what the word is, it's not social circle, but we've sort of been in and around the same places and never actually met, which is weird for both doing stand-up, you know what I mean, in a lot of the same venues, and then suddenly you just don't get to meet the person. Very unusual. So with that in mind, thanks very much for taking the time out to do this very popular Mobo award-winning podcast that I have.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. It's very weird that anytime I message anybody to do this, you feel like you're inconveniencing them. You know, you're happy that they spend their time with you, even though nobody's doing fuck all at the minute.
Yeah, that's the thing. But at the same time, you have to ask people stuff too. Otherwise, you'll get nothing done. So I do feel the same. I sometimes I'll go on a blast and I'll ask 10 people. And then if 3 or 4 of them say yes and the rest don't bother getting back to me, then I have to try to juggle 3 or 4 people. So I need to be more organized that way. Yeah,
I think no matter what, even pre-COVID or post-COVID, you always feel like you're torturing people, even if you put it, I always equate it to particularly these days when you ask for a bill, even if you ask very politely, you feel like you're a wanker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even if I ask you politely, would you have time in the next 6 months for an hour to do this podcast? I still think I'm being a cunt to this guy. I'm being such a rude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Completely, yeah. And the opposite side is I have to put it into my phone. If someone asks me to do something as well, because there's so many things to do nowadays, people, I think they forget a lot of the time. So I have to put it into my phone or else I'll forget it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like an old man now where I have a wee notebook and it does everything now where I'm like, I need to get pesto. I need to do this podcast. I need to wash my ballocks. You know what I mean? Everything's down to a T now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Everything's voice notes. There's no relying on the memory at all anymore.
Oh, it's so annoying how I've turned into my dad. And when you're younger, they go, "Oh, you'll just be like me. When you're my age, you'll be exactly the fucking same." And you're like, "I get fucked, and I'm trying to be shit here. Leave me alone." But
what town are you from? Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. What town are you from? Are you from Belfast?
I'm based in Belfast now about a decade, but I'm from Strabane originally. I don't know if most people have heard of it in the worst possible way.
I was there before. I was there before. There's some hotel on the outskirts, is there? It's I'm sure there's a few, yeah. But myself and French Toast were there. There's a fella that makes pipes outside that town. You know him, do you?
Oh, Pipe Mickey. Oh, yeah.
Pipe Mickey. For some reason, I thought he was a renowned legend in those parts. I don't remember his name, but that's yeah. I mean, I'm not really giving you much information here, but
yeah.
He makes special Irish pipes. And he invited us up to Strabane, myself and another fella, to do a talk at an award ceremony. But the people at the ceremony, they were in their 40s or 50s, and they were looking at us, not knowing who we were. So we were like, we feel like we shouldn't be here at all.
Yeah, that's a random story. I have to say, usually everyone's heard of Strabane, but it's never a positive thing. And particularly when you say you've been there. Now, I don't know what you thought of the whole place, but usually it's like, I was there once, and then someone stole the wheels of my car while I was still in it, and you're like, gee, all right, okay, that's my auntie you're talking about, you dick. You know what I mean?
To be honest, I didn't get a feel. It didn't seem like dodgy or anything like that. It's the people that we met in the hotel, they were all up for the crack anyways, and I was more so I think I was only in one half of the town, so maybe I didn't get to see the whole experience, but sure, the town I'm from in Mayo is kind of the similar vibe.
Where is that in Mayo you're from exactly?
It's between Foxford and Charlestown. Have you ever been down that way?
I actually haven't, so I don't even know why I asked, to be honest.
Have you never climbed Croagh Patrick, no?
No, it's down south has escaped me a lot. I think when I started doing stand-up, I got down quite a bit. But between speaking to people like yourself and Tom O'Mahony, I know you do a podcast with and stuff, it's like the Lord of the Rings. Some of these places that between the both of you said, where I'm like, I don't even know. If the Guinness is good, that's fine.
Would you always have a few pints after every gig?
I cut it out really, in that I like getting back to my own bed. I'm not a big pinter anyway. And then I don't know, when you started stand up, I don't know if you ever found the same, where you were like having a pint after or a pint before a bit too often, where you're like, am I actually getting laughs because the material is good, or because I'm sort of half cut and the ad libs are reasonably risque? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I think even one pint makes you less sharp with your material.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I often went too far, much too far.
Yeah, and it is weird that even if it's material you've been doing for quite a while, that's ingrained in your skull, one pint, and you're just like, oh, my name's Woods Rory, and you're like, oh, bollocks, it's not even it. No, it's really something as minimal as that. And stand-up's obviously a thing. So did you do stand-up post the show, or was that always something you did and then you did the show for a while and you went back to it? Or
no, we in the Hardy books, you see, none of us really wanted to do anything on stage, and we didn't really want to be actors, but we happened upon Hardy books kind of by accident. Well, Eddie Durkin and the Viper, they were going to college in Dublin, and they had to make like a weekend course, so they came down to Mayo and they made this little video Hardy books demo. Yeah. So then we had no intention of doing stand up, you see. So, but then people said to us, "Will you come to this venue? Just go up on stage and talk shite for like an hour,
right?
And we'll pay. Yeah, we'll pay you." So we thought, oh, that's the same as the show. Just go on stage and talk. But like the very first gig we did, we did our stand up at the same time, which is obviously mental because the five of us talking over each other.
Yeah.
So there was like jokes coming from different ways all the time, you know.
Oh, that sounds mad, man.
It was mad, yeah. And it was kind of like, looking back, I kind of get a shiver down my spine.
Yeah.
But stand up, it's a tricky one. I still haven't figured it out yet. You know, it's like, yeah, with videos you can kind of be more relaxed, I think, because you can do loads of takes and you can edit them whatever way you want. But with stand up, it's almost like they're getting that one version of you in whatever amount of time it is. But within that amount of time, it's almost, I think the crowd will see any weakness, you know. I kind of get the feeling that they can see behind the mask at any time.
It's very much like a putting your eggs in the one basket sort of vibe, where you're like, this is my vibe. It's not as if you can do 10 minutes as a quite dry act and then be very physical and then do faces and you have to kind of stick to your thing, which obviously takes years to even settle on what you're going to do. But it's annoying if they don't like it at the start and you're on stage for 40 minutes. That's a long 40 minutes, you know what I mean?
That is a long time, yeah. And I think I've been there. I think I've been up there for, there's been times where I've been up there for maybe 20 minutes and I'm like, oh, this is tough work, because I don't know, how do you go about learning off your material but then giving it back to the people as something that's natural? Because I feel like the more I go over it, the more it kind of loses its naturalness, because it's not natural, because I learned it.
Yeah, I think that's just the heart of stand up, really. It's finding that ability to come across as if you've never said any of the stuff before. That's why it kind of blows my mind when you see certain comedians that are associated with one particular bit of material and they do it at nearly every show. Even like someone like Bert Kreischer still does that story about robbing a train with the Russian mafia, and people go mad even though they know it. And it's like if Kevin Bridges was doing his bus stop joke after every gig, and I suppose you'd be happy, but it blows my mind that people are like, I want to hear it again. You know what I mean?
It's almost like you're not a comedian anymore. You're kind of like a performer maybe, or something. Yeah,
you come with like your own on-demand service or some shit on it. But in terms of like sounding organic, that I think that just comes with experience, really. In terms of I do things, I don't actually physically write anything down, and I never have after 10 years of doing this. I've just got a really good memory, and I just know that the start and the end, I know that, and I know a bit in the middle, and then it sort of leaves a bit of area to ad lib and kind of crowd work. And, you know, there's always there's like 20% it where you can fuck about, because then sometimes that's where you come up with really good ad libs, and you're like, this is better than anything I could have fucking come up with, which is infuriating and handy at the same time.
Definitely, yeah. And it's kind of like when you go out with your friends on a Saturday night for a few drinks or whatever, it's not like you're planning what you're going to say to them. So that's why the gold does come out, because you're kind of so relaxed in some ways, because there's times where you can be on stage and you can feel like you are the fire for the party, you know? Yeah. It's kind of like you're creating something there's a good energy happening if it's going your way.
Absolutely. Like there's no better feeling that when you're doing that well, you just feel like you could say anything and it'll get a laugh. Even if you take a sip of water, you can make it funny. Do you know what I mean? But again,
and you nearly could, I think.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you just feel like you can fly in a weird way. I know that's a bit of a sort of American cliched way of putting it, but then there's the downside of that. I don't know if you struggle with this, maybe more applicable to you, but when I started doing stand-up, in terms of my dynamic, chatting to my mates and my family and my in-laws and stuff like that there, I kind of got really sort of anxious in front of them, because anytime I was just being funny off the cuff, I was that paranoid. I thought everybody was thinking, oh, he's planned that. He's thought of that and he's coerced it into the conversation. I struggled with that for a few years, you know, where I was like, just didn't really say much at parties, because I was just like, do people think this is rehearsed? And then if it doesn't land, or if you're not particularly funny and you're just pissed, then people go, well, apparently he's the comedian and he does stand up. Sure, he wasn't fucking funny the night. And that got to me for years, you know, seriously.
You can't really win, because I think if you're a comedian or whatever you're into, like, but with comedy, you're always thinking, is that funny? Can I make a joke out of that? So I think your mind is always thinking like that. So, you know, like if you're with a friend of yours, or maybe your mother or someone like that, and you make a joke and you see that it's getting a good laugh, even if you weren't planning it, maybe subconsciously then you start thinking, okay, that's getting such a good laugh that maybe I should use that in some of my material, like whether it be videos or stand-up. So maybe we're programmed to look out for jokes all the time.
I think so. I think you're programmed with a certain perspective, that even if it's something that's not funny, where it's just a banal occurrence in a supermarket, you can see a twist on it where you're like, oh, if I told this and maybe at the end of the story, said person did this. Like I used to have a bit about my dad. And the long story short, I went to Asda with my dad, who's 70, and he walked past, they changed all the aisles about, and the usual place where he gets most of his stuff wasn't there, and they'd replaced it with all the ladies' feminine hygiene products. So all the fucking, you know what I mean? So he was walking through as a 7-year-old, but Jesus fucking Christ, and I'm confused as fuck. So I was like, there's definitely something there. So I wrote a bit about how there was a woman in front of him at the till who stuffed her bag so full that one of her feminine hygiene products fell on the floor, and he picked it up to try and give it back to her, and he didn't actually know what to say. So I had to try and think of a funny way that a 70-year-old Tyrone man would describe certain. So I was just laughing to myself, but I settled on fanny napkins. That's what I settled on. So I just said, like, my dad was like, oh, you dropped your fanny napkins, you know what I mean? But I went through like 30 before I settled on like beaver blankets.
That's
Pussy
good.
pashminas and stuff like that. But fanny napkins, and then it became this mega bit. Like the first time I ever did it, the laugh I got was ridiculous. Do you know what I mean?
It's addictive.
And then again, that was just because he just walked past them. And that's the normal story. The comedy story is he described them as fanny napkins. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you had a real story, but you added your own little twist on it at the end.
Yeah, but I think you need to do that, because I think when you start stand-up, I'm sure you notice this, where it's like you have enough true stories between your family and your friends, drunken nights out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's enough to keep you going. What do you do after that when you've used that material? And particularly if you do it on TV or radio, then it's gone. And you're like, well, now you actually have to think of things that are funny, not just go, my mate once said that blah, blah, blah. That's
especially nowadays, because there's a big turnover of material nowadays, because you have to have Instagram on the go, maybe TikTok, Patreon or whatever, YouTube. Then you got to do your live stuff or whatever. So it's just like, it seems relentless now when it comes to having to churn out the material. So it's kind of hard to keep stuff funny all the time. I find the more I'm trying to be funny, the less funny I kind of generally am, which is a hard place to be nearly, because what does that mean? That I shouldn't do any writing?
Exactly. It's trying to find that balance. But again, how do you go about doing that? It's very hard again, but I suppose if this was an easy thing to be doing with yourself, then everybody would be doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
the fact
definitely.
It's like, I think it was Seinfeld, he said something like, find the torture that you're comfortable with. And that's kind of a good way of describing comedy, where you're like, most of the time, it's a fucking hard thing to do. Well, even when you're not on stage, when you see that, you know, certain gigs are announced and you weren't asked to be on the lineup, or a festival lineup's announced and you weren't asked, and you know, someone gets on TV and you don't, and there's so many things, which is maybe for you might be different in that you started stand-up, I assume, being extremely well known. Was that not really difficult? Because I assume when you're put on a poster, so many people come in, but you're only starting stand-up, so
yeah, that was
you're making
tricky.
all your mistakes in front of a lot of people. Do you know what I mean?
I was, yeah. And I kind of felt guilty for that because I thought they'll see me now and they'll think, because again, with the YouTube stuff, you can edit the videos and then you like, it makes you look like you're funnier than you are, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
when it comes to the stand-up, I think they were probably expecting me to be all like polished and here's a full hour of material about me or like different things.
Yeah.
But no, I was, I was kind of like trying to figure out, I didn't really know how to tell stories like a stand-up comedian does. I just, I have probably a different way of doing it, which probably worked for videos, but for stand-up, I kind of figured out that you need to have the button or whatever at the end of the joke, and you need to have the twists and turns and all that stuff. And sometimes video ideas don't translate to stand-up. I don't know why they don't, but sometimes they don't. And there's a good while there, and still is, where I was trying to figure out what the hell am I doing up here? Like, I kind of feel it's close, but at the same time, I just can't let down the last barrier of like, oh yeah, now I'm relaxed up here, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think 2 points about that. I think you're never 100% relaxed. I don't think you ever will be, because I think if you ever do achieve that, you're not going to get laughs. I think you need that nervous, what if people don't like this energy?
Yeah.
But I wonder, in terms of then you start doing stand-up, but obviously you were so well known for playing that character. Do people expect an extension of that character in your stand-up? Because it's not a live character you're doing, it's just you. It's advertised as Owen Colgan. So, but do people still go there expecting buzz? Because I know Colin Geddes had that for years, where people were going, there's Barry the Blender, and you're like, nope.
Oh yeah.
It's just him chatting about his dad or whatever. Like, he had that issue for years where people would only come to see him. So that's why when he started stand-up, 2 or 3 gigs in, he was headlining like 20 minutes, because people would leave after he was on, so you couldn't put him on first. So like, you're on last and you have to do longer. So he got a real baptism of fire. Was it similar for you, where you're like, look, everyone's here to see me and I don't know, I've only done this like twice. Do you know what I mean?
In some ways it was, but then sorry, that light is flickering a bit there, I think. But in some ways it was, and in other ways I was like, oh sure, I should be grateful for this, because this is a nice position to be in. Yeah. Because like, if I've got a few friends who are stand-up comedians, and they're like really like polished and they know how to deliver jokes, and they were showing me different ways to write them. And then I might bring them to a few gigs with myself, and I'd be like I'm the headline act on this piece of paper here, but like, really the person below me is better than me. So what the fuck? It was a weird place to be in my mind, but at the same time I was thinking I should just enjoy this anyways, because like, the fact of the matter is, I'm going up on stage in front of a big group of people. Yeah. If I just try to be silly, at least just try to be silly, have a crack with them, I'll get through it. That's the kind of thing I'd be going through before the gigs in my mind. But, and the more relaxed I was, the more I would get through them, Yeah.
I suppose it's a real testament fundamentally to just the actual popularity of Hardy Bucks. I mean, going from a student project to what it became in terms of a couple of seasons and then film, and then you see it on Netflix, and it was like, it was made by a bunch of people that really didn't have any real interest. Not that you didn't have interest, but it wasn't like something that you were like, this is going to be massive, and this can this is a new stage in each of our lives to start doing performance and blah 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 and have notoriety. You just did it for a bit of crack, and then suddenly everybody knows you, and you're meeting with producers, and like, what was that like? I mean, that must have came out of nowhere for you.
That was very strange, because at the beginning, like, when you're hanging out with your mates and you're making jokes, you think you're just funny, or only your friends and yourself will get the jokes. Yeah. But then when we started filming a couple of episodes of the Hardy Bucks, and people were kind of beginning to quote the lines to us and stuff, we started thinking, geez, there could be something in this now. There might be a bit of longevity. And then the weird thing is, the bigger it got, the more watered down in some ways it got, because there was more people involved. Then you needed people who were looking for locations. You'd need someone who was going to give you the right Celtic jersey to wear, or whatever, the right football jersey, or whatever you'd be wearing that day. Like, or there might be brands on your top where you had to cover the brand name. So it was kind of like, almost the bigger Hardy Bucks was getting, the more it was almost becoming like a commercial sort of thing. Like any show, I suppose, the bigger you get, the more you have to fulfill, the needs of the bigger people, which is fair enough, like, Yeah. Because then at the end of the day, like, I knew my parents would take me seriously if I was on telly, and I was going to do anything to prove it.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing about comedy, in that until you're on TV, nobody gives a shit. even if you're
Exactly, yeah.
tremendous, and even if you've no interest in being on TV, until you do it, nobody takes you seriously. You know what I mean? Until, even if it's not as doing stand-up, if you get a bit part in something like that there, just to know that you're going on TV, particularly like my parents would have been like, all right, now you're making the big bucks, but you're like, well, you can still do okay just from stand-up and being on the radio all the time. And like, it's, you know, TV is not the be all and end all. And as you say, if it's on a big show, there's so many irons in the fire, so many opinions that maybe scripts are sent in and they're like, well, maybe they should have him dressed as a chicken in this scene. And
exactly.
There's
too many people poking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whether stand-up, the reason why stand-up is probably so nerve-wracking, I think, is because it's just you and your ideas, and it's your way to formulate them and show them to the people. So it's a very like pure way of telling a story that's in your mind, as opposed to a TV version of an idea is very much 10 or 20 people's different ideas together that mightn't, you know, they'd be more probably situated towards a business, as opposed to stand-up is more like you're kind of being a bit more raw, I think, more real.
Yeah, well, maybe not so much now, given the climate, but
yeah, exactly.
Most of the time,
that's true too. Yeah,
with stand-up, you can generally say whatever you want. You can have the most newfangled idea, and as long as you sell it, you're fine. Yeah. Whereas now, you know, you have to be so careful about what you don't have to be so careful, but you feel like no matter what bit you write, there's a line in there that's going to annoy someone, which was always the case. But now people will take to Twitter and be like, I can't believe you said this about lentils. Lentils are actually very nutritious. And you're like, oh, fuck, man. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I've annoyed the vegans now. Great. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever had that?
You can't win. Oh, yeah, plenty of times. Yeah, and I'm trying to still get through that point where I'm like, you know what? You're always going to offend somebody. Someone's always going to be a bit annoyed at you. So you just have to keep going with it, I suppose, and realize that you're not going to be liked by everybody. Yeah. And then go for it. I think that's the only way to go for it. That's the way I think it's going to have to work for me, because I find anytime I try to appease so many people, I kind of lose my edge, or I lose what I find funny. So, you know, you're doing it for yourself. So you may as well be willing to take the risk of people not liking you too, I suppose.
Yeah. So in terms of like, you know, you starting stand-up, you start writing jokes for your first gig. In terms of writing, did you write stuff for Hardy Bucks, so like additional material? How did that work? Or was it more ad-libs and improv? How was that based?
You mean the stand-up, is it?
I mean, in terms of Hardy Bucks, like, did you...
Well, the Hardy Bucks, it was like Eddie Durkin and the Viper, they'd have an outline for a scene. They might say, like, we're going to have an underground rally tournament. And then we'd be like, all right. So we just turn up on the day, and then it'd take us about 2 hours to kind of get warmed up into it. But then once we got warmed up into a scene, and we knew like that, okay, Eddie Durkin is selling in Nadja Hash here now. You have about 10 minutes, lads, to try to make him sell it, or something like that. And then we just do a take that could be like an hour of improvisation. And then the Viper would edit it down to like 5 or 6 minutes. And he'd get rid of all the crap lines, make it into a understandable story. So like, it was we were shooting far too much, and then there was a lot of editing going on. Yeah.
So then to go from that to stand up, where really, as you say, if a line that you come up with doesn't work, there's nowhere really to hide, there's no editor. I suppose the audience is the editor, really. The silence is the edit, where you're like, oh, shit. You know, so was that how nerve-wracking was your first gig? Like, where was it and how did it come about and stuff?
I think it was in Jobstown. Did you ever do a gig there?
No, I have heard of it.
In Tala. You might have done a gig with Joe Dowling, I think. Yeah, Joe Dowling and Paul Marsh. I'm sure you've met Paul before.
I've met Paul, yeah. I haven't met Joe, but I've heard of him. But I haven't done a gig down there. I should do that at some point. Whenever
I think there's
10 years.
Whenever exactly. But I had a gig there, and I had like all the cue points for my 5 or 6 jokes wrote onto a whiteboard. But then when I was on stage, the whiteboard fell off the stage. And that got a bit of a laugh. They thought that was part of it, and I was like, "Fuck, that's not part of it at all."
Yeah.
And then I was like trying to read the lines while also trying to deliver the jokes, but they were like, I was shitting myself. I was really shitting myself, and I kind of just about got through it. But for I'd say a good day after, I was like, "Oh God, what am I doing? This is I'm not good at this comedy stuff." So I said, or definitely not good at stand-up comedy, anyway. So I said I was really kind of like down on myself, but the best thing to do is just keep doing them.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to a point where you can't break anymore, I think.
Yeah, it's the only way you can get If you've got natural ability, obviously it's the only way you can get. You have to just keep going. You have to keep her lit. If you stop, you're not meant to be doing it. You know what I mean? If you really sort of quit, you know those people that quit every 6 months and go, "Fuck guys, I'm not doing it," and then you go and you're not cut out for it, because there is like the mental strain of doing stand up. But then every good gig you have is worth the 6 months of strife that you had to go through. Yeah, for sure, man.
What kind of stuff do you do? You do stand up. You do some stuff for BBC Ulster as well.
I do wee bits here and there. Stand up's the main thing. Like anything I've done outside of it, I have enjoyed. But again, it's like a different muscle, you know. So I did the Blame Game, you know, the panel show. I did the radio show, and then I did the TV. And again, it just felt like I had done no comedy before in my life. It's a different animal, particularly the panel show on TV. It's a different animal. You're sitting there going...
It's a different kind of stress, isn't it?
100%. And bear in mind, when I did it, it was filmed in Strabane in that theatre. Like, it was a hometown recording.
Oh, right.
And when I was asked to do it, I was like, this is going to be brilliant. And I was like, oh, fuck, I should have done it somewhere else. No, I should have said, can I do... They usually do it in the BBC.
Were you nervous? Were you nervous before doing it, or how were you feeling coming up to the hour beforehand?
I was super nervous because you arrive there early in the day. You have a couple of meetings and stuff like that there to go over, you know, what you do want to talk about, and then they give you like regulations about what you can't say and certain curse words and stuff like that. And then you're just nervous as fuck, plus the hometown aspect. And then at the end of the day, you know, everybody who's on that show is lovely. Tim McGarry, Delamere, Colin Murphy, Jake O'Kane, lovely, so supportive. But one thing they can't help you with is the fact that them 4 comedians have been working together on that show for fucking ages. So they have that natural rapport, chemistry, and you're trying to chime in, going, "Oh, isn't pick and mix while fucking expensive?" And you really just, you know what I mean? You're just chiming in.
Like at a party when there's a group of people already talking, you're trying to squeeze into the group, but it's almost like it's too much work.
Yeah, I kind of felt it was like, you know, if you're at a party and everyone's choosing a song, and 4 people choose bangers, it's like Van Halen, Queen, Prince, Rage Against the Machine, and you go on and be like, UB40, fucking
bringing down
red wine,
bringing down the atmosphere. So why did you have a few jokes that were not hitting home, or?
No, my problem was everything I said got laughs, but I didn't say a wild lot. So I had my segment, and I had 1 or 2 other bits, but I think in terms of from the editor's point of view, I didn't give them enough. So I was on the show and I got a decent amount in, but I think I would have made it a bit more punchy, because all my stand-up's very sort of story orientated, like the fanny napkin story, and you know, of stories from when I was a student, and like I got married last year, so I've got stuff about that. But I've learned since that, you know, as sort of negative as I felt about it, I was kind of gutted when I watched the show go out, and I was like, I should have done better there. But now I've learned to make all my bits punchier. So I'm like, I need a joke there. Instead of just having these long-winded stories that do end strong, you need, at the end of the day, with anything, you need fucking jokes. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. When you see
you can't just keep waffling on.
When you see open micers that are like, oh, I'm using this as therapy, or I'm going to do poetry, I'm going to use props, do whatever you want, but it has to have jokes at the end of the day. You can't just be like... So, but again, it's the ultimate learning curve. I mean, everybody who was on the Blame Game was happy with what I did, but I think it's just that hypercritical aspect that I think
that's good. That you got to be humble enough. Yeah, you got to be humble enough to take that constructive criticism on board, because you could have went either way with that situation, you know. And I've been in stuff like that before, where I've been on maybe some TV show where they're like, okay, now you have to just plug the Hardy Books series. And then you'd go on there and you'd try to make a joke. And even the presenter's looking at you going, I don't get what you're talking about. And then it's just like, oh God, that's so cringeworthy. But at the end of the day, the overall picture is to stay in the game and keep learning from the bits that you fall over from.
Exactly. It's the ultimate learning curve. Like, if people ever ask, like, how long does it take to get good at stand-up or just being a comedian? Fuck. I mean, at least 10 years. At least.
Oh, yeah.
And even at that, I don't know.
I think you have to keep getting broken. I think that's the key, maybe, to keep getting broken to the point where you're like, I could walk on stage and just stare at somebody. And, you know, like, I wouldn't be nervous doing that. Maybe you need to have that, maybe to the point where, like, you just don't give a shit anymore. Would that be it, or would that be just
No,
messy?
I think you're right. It's, appreciating the good gigs, but not forgetting that, protect, as I say, once you do a big show or you do something on TV or radio, that material is gone now. So nobody gives a fuck. So you're back to square one. You're back to open mics. Like, even like, that's why I keep the day job. Obviously there's the financial aspect as well, but my office day job, like, it's a Monday to Friday thing. So the best example I can give was when me and the rest of the boys did the Ulster Hall a few years ago, when we did the Comedy Squad gig. We booked it.
Who was that? Was that Shane Todd, or was that Colin Geddes?
Shane did a separate show by himself because he's Shane. So it was me, Colin Geddes, Mickey Bartlett, Kieran Bartlett, Dave Elliott, Aaron McCann. So there's 6 of us. We did about 15 minutes each. Ulster Hall, 1,000 people. We booked it on a whim, going, this will never work. And it did somehow. Did the gig. Unbelievable. Like, everybody was on form. The crowd was unbelievable. Went out at the end, fucking standing ovation, and it was mad, man. That was a Friday night.
Nice.
I was in the office 8 o'clock on Monday morning, back to it. And I was like, I played 1,000 people, and then on Monday it was just back to work, just going, you know what I mean?
That might be no harm, though. That might be no harm at all, because you're back at it. You're probably thinking of your next piece, as opposed to if you revel in your own glory too much. I sound like a priest now. If you revel in your own glory, no. But if you get too carried away with your own, like, if like that gig, you could have went on the beer for the week for that one. But
100%. Yeah.
What you probably did is you were writing again on the Monday. I'd guess maybe.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, between going back to work, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, so walking through a rainy Belfast at 8:15. Then I think on the other side of it, I am in a long-term relationship and now married, so I'm always the ego. Cheers, man. The ego's quite low on that, and that my wife has no problem going, that's shit. If you're going, would this be funny? Nah, it won't be.
She'll tear you down a piece. Yeah.
And I think it annoys me at the time. Yes.
Yeah.
Fuming. But at long term, I'm going, you were right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The thing, it's, at the time you're kind of like, sure, this is my fucking career. I'm in comedy. I know better. What's funny? And then after could be 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, sorry, you were right.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of my wedding, by the way, you have some involvement in my wedding. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember? No. So it was 21st of September last year. I got married. I was at the head table, and a couple of comedian friends were at the back. I don't know who you've met and who you haven't. So have you met Aaron McCann?
I met Aaron McCann. I talked to him plenty of times online. I think I met him one gig. I met him at one gig. You'll have to ask. I'll have to ask him that, but I think one time. It
was Aaron. He was there. Dave Elliott, his wife.
I met Dave Elliott. Yeah.
Paddy McDonnell was there.
Yes, I met Paddy.
Aaron Butler and Mickey Bartlett were all there.
Yeah, I met Mickey as well.
And I noticed, even from the head table, the very back, they were doing something, and it turned out to be something that got quite a lot of traction on Insta. It was the little bit of the bubbly. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah. I didn't know what that was, but that was a good laugh at that stuff. Yeah.
That was my wedding, basically. So.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was my day, and then Bastards went viral.
Bastards. They fucking tried to take the light away from you, Rory.
Yeah.
Never let them do that.
So Aaron had messaged me the next day going, that little bit of the bubbly thing went mad, because I did it and I didn't realize how much they were doing it. And then McCann's got the whole thing saved on his Instagram. If you're ever bored, it's just, I know that you can save all your stories.
Oh yeah, highlights. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was watching it, and it was just like blah, 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 all them. And then suddenly you pop up with a tin of stout, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, I didn't even realize that it went that far. And I was like, fucking Owen Colgan's doing it now and everything. And then it was just fucking mad. You know what I mean? Just weird, just you pop up. I was like, how the fuck did that happen? So weird, man.
I don't even know. It must have been Aaron McCann that asked me that. So I think, he didn't even ask me. Sorry. I think he had it up on his stories, and I just said,
and I think he responded funny. Just,
yeah. That must have been a good day. Have all the boys there at the wedding.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was, it's so weird when you get married. It flies in, but it's a long day. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. You're just like, before you know it, like, you're speaking to someone and they're talking about like the late night buffet that you get like an hour or so after the dinner, like near 11 o'clock. And I was like, has that happened already? And then suddenly, before you know it, you're in your bed, expected to consummate, and you're like, here, I have no idea what's going on here. Give me a minute. Did you have to butter on the dick?
Did you have to do a speech for the wedding? Or did you do like a toast or whatever?
I did a wee speech, yeah, just like
Right.
it was my day off, so I did a few wee bits, just mostly thank yous, and then kind of slagged the bridal party. You know what I mean? As a wee bit, just thanked everybody because it was my day off. I was like, I'm not doing fuck all. Then my best man did a speech, and Lisa's dad, and we kept it very short because I don't know. Have you ever been to a wedding where the speeches went on far too fucking long?
Yeah, it's the worst part of the wedding. You're just like, come on, hurry up, get the cake out here.
Yeah, it's fucking. We see in terms of bars, we had the speeches before the dinner because I was like,
okay,
get them done. I don't know if it's different down south. I'm speaking like down south is like a different continent, but we had it all.
It's so long since I went to a wedding. Yeah, I think it's all before the food. No, I think we have the food and then we have the speeches, I think.
Yeah. See, I think we were given the option and I was like, here, get it done. Particularly because, you know, like Lisa's dad was happy to do a speech, but he was very nervous. So when I spoke to him after, he was like, I was glad to do the speech so I can enjoy my dinner. You know, maybe it's because he's an old culture farmer as well. I don't think he would want anything to spoil the beef experience for him. Like, but we get it done early, man. Just 3 speeches. So I think it was about 10 minutes between the 3 of us. Plus, lovely. I don't know if it's, again, this seems to be common practice now. Our hotel said if you go over 15 minutes of the speeches, you get charged. Because it fucks up the food.
Okay.
So they're like, look, if the food runs late, then all the meat goes dry, and you know things need to be reheated and all shit, and it ruins it. And I was like, you know what, fair point. Because I've been to a few, I've been to some weddings. Between like bride. I've been to a few where the bride has spoken, the maid of honor, groom, best man. Then this particular wedding, she had a dad and a stepdad. They both spoke, and then the groom's dad, and then the priest did the wee fucking massy fucking bit. Yeah, I know, because you've been drinking stout since like 1 o'clock in the day.
Yeah. You just don't want to hear anyone talking. Yeah,
and you're like, I need the soup. Where's the fucking soup? You know what I mean? I'll get it myself. I'll go to the kitchen myself and go get it. Just helping yourself. And in the pint glass, just like that, like happy fucking days. Fuck's sake.
So how long ago since you got married? Last year, was it?
Last September, yeah. So we did we were a year there a couple of weeks ago, which is good. So it's
how was the lockdown going up in Tyrone?
Well, in terms of Tyrone,
you're in Belfast, sorry.
I'm in Belfast, but in Tyrone, where Strabane is, Strabane and Derry is like the worst 2 places in the north at the minute for COVID. Like,
I heard that, yeah.
Ridiculous, man. But a couple of weeks before this lockdown was introduced, I was in Strabane visiting, and I didn't go out to bars or anything, but I was walking past a few, and man, they were all packed, no masks, no social, like there was literally nothing in place. So it was only a matter of time. I think I don't know if it's a Tyrone thing or if it's a very Irish overall thing where we're hard people to try and have authority over. You know, it's like, you don't tell me what to fucking do.
Yeah. We don't like to be told what to do, and then it's almost like the government should have just said, oh no, everyone can go outside. And then everyone would be like, hang on a second now. And everyone must stay inside. So they should have just did a bit of reverse psychology. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to rebel against you by staying in for a month.
Yeah.
But I don't think, you know, like everyone was kind of saying, like everyone was trying to blame like different sort of demographics and different stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think everyone kind of took a chance at different times with masks and no masks, and nobody was perfect with them. So it seems like you just got to go with it now. It's on the news all the time, and it'll just sicken you listening to it.
Yeah, man, there's so much of it really between news and social media. I think someone put it up on Twitter, and it was the best way of describing it, where someone just went, can we not just live with a virus and just get back to normal? No, the same way that you can get a flu at the winter, or if you eat pink chicken, it's going to make you sick. You know, like it's just one of those things that you just know. Why can't we just, like, I have no bother social distancing. If anything, like I'm all for it. Wearing a mask, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but you don't like.
You'll do it.
Yeah, you'll do it. You just gotta be like, I had like the medical mask at the start. You know, the one that ironically looks like a fanny napkin. You get one of those. They're fucking shit, and they've got like a plastic like wire in it. You know, they sort of secure it. I've like a fabric one now. It's dead on. Although you sweat in the face, you look like I look like such a pedo with a mask with a sweat, man. Like,
oh yeah, they're so weird to be wearing. Like, if I was wearing a hat and a mask the other day, and I had glasses on that fogged up, and I got someone to take a picture of me, and I just looked like some fella that was about to rob a bank.
Yeah,
But
they're like phone jacker.
It's a strange to see people. Exactly, just like phone jacker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say to you, did you see? You don't follow UFC, do you?
A wee bit. Well, I'm starting to get into it now because I know this isn't strictly UFC. This is Bellator, but there's a fella from Strabane who's quite big in Bellator now, James Gallagher.
James Gallagher, yeah.
Yeah. So I started following that because of him, and then obviously I catch like the McGregor fights. It's such like a bandwagon dude where I'll watch McGregor. But anytime I have watched it, I have enjoyed it. But it's something I need.
Well, the reason why I was bringing up is because it's the lad in it called Khabib, but he has this mask on him in the last episode, and it's like this futuristic one that Bane has on. I think it's like some sort of government one, but like I was checking online, they cost 250 quid to buy them.
Jesus.
So that'll be the next thing we're going to have to pay for, these expensive masks that have Wi-Fi built into them or something.
Yeah, and Bluetooth or something. Send each other songs. Imagine
imagine inside of it.
Imagine I had like fucking, remember like infrared? Do you remember infrared back in the day? You had to like touch phones to send songs.
Yeah.
Do you remember that shit?
Yeah.
Fuck me. It seems like masks and hand sanitizer, those businesses are fucking like, it's like shampoo and condoms where they have all these mad scents and flavors and stuff, where like there's hand sanitizer and there's like guacamole or something. You're like, Jesus Christ, do we need that?
Whoever got into that hand sanitizer is probably delighted about this pandemic, because some people, like to see them buying like big tubs of hand sanitizer, and I'm thinking you don't need that much. Like,
yeah, not at all. There's ones, I don't know if like anywhere I've been, like restaurants and stuff, they have hand sanitizer there for you. Man, sometimes it takes you like half an hour to fucking dry your hands. We're like, here, what the fuck is this? Like lube or something? Like, you know what I mean? Or like really, like cheap gel that you would get from like it was like a big economy tub and it glowed in the dark, and you would just get a big like flubber and just like that. But you do it in your hands, man. You're like 2 hours later going, Jesus,
still sticky.
Yeah, trying to finger someone here. What's trying to finger. Did you see the video? Yeah. There was a fella in Northern Ireland. It was like CCTV footage. This old fella, God bless him, fair play. He had he was obviously aware of COVID and stuff, and not like an old Irish man. He was like, I don't give a fuck about that. Sure, who gives a shit? Like my dad's kind of a wee bit weird about it. And the guy came in and he was looking for the hand sanitizer, and he's like, oh fuck, there it is there. Don't know if you saw this video. And it was the slushy machine, those slush puppies.
Oh yeah, I did.
And he just put it straight in his hand and be like, hey, fucking go.
I seen it. I didn't know where that was, but fucking hell, that's just.
I laughed.
That's you can't get funnier than that. But I'd say it's happened many a time so far. It's because it's confusing when you walk into the shop, and you see the new signs now, and you're like, you can only walk this way, and you can't walk down that. You can't get biscuits on this side. You have to come in from the far side, and then people are a bit wary of each other, so it's kind of confusing walking into shops. It's almost like you nearly prefer not to know.
Yeah, it all seems to be like very much one way system, the same way like IKEA does it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where once you're in IKEA, you're there, and you're not there until you're going to the fucking exit, which means you're going to buy a lamp, a fucking gazebo, and a chest of drawers on your way out just to have something.
Oh yeah,
you know
that's the thing. You see, if you were to watch humans now from a height looking down, and you watch just the way we're all queuing up now, and we're kind of like driving out at the same time, and there's someone waving us. It's almost like we've turned into full-time robots.
Yeah, 100%. You're like, maybe that's why it doesn't sit well with people. They're like, I just feel like you feel like a child. Like particularly when the thing first came in, I'll be honest, I didn't really take it that seriously. I'll be totally candid with you. Like I was like, I'm not wearing a fucking mask. Don't need to wash my hands that often. You know what I mean? I almost felt like when I was out with my wife, you know those things that like mothers have for their toddlers, where it's like a big vest with a rope.
Yeah.
I would feel like I should be like wheeled about, and one I am, by the way, just standing about. What's that? You know what I mean? So, but now again, maybe it's an Irish thing, man, where people are just like, you can't tell me what to do. Maybe the reverse psychology angle that you're on about. That's the way to go. Where they're like, don't ever wear a mask, and you're like, I'll show you how to fucking wear a mask. You know what I mean? They wear like 19,
exactly.
Like fuck you.
Yeah, that could be it. But I think it's happening all over. It seems like there's a lot of people who are just like, come on, just let us. You know, it just feels weird when you're breathing in your own air as well, and especially I wear glasses as well. But like there's sometimes where you couldn't see where you're going because of the glasses being fogged up. But obviously that's not too much of a worry. if you're helping someone's health, like. But
Yeah.
no, it's a funny setup when you walk into the shops and everyone's wearing the masks in a different way. But if you get too close to some people, they'll almost attack you.
Yeah, because I think it's hard now, you know, because you don't get to speak to people a lot anymore because most of the time you stay in the house. So when you do, maybe you like to have a bit of crack, but maybe your sense of humor doesn't come across because half your face is covered. And I think like I have like serial killer eyes. So whatever way, so when I'm covered like that and I buy something in the shop and try and have a bit of crack and be going, like having shite banter, it doesn't come across like I'm trying to be funny because I'm not really emoting. Do you know what I mean? Like face doesn't contort, so it's just.
It just shows you how much the mouth we use for like communication. Obviously talking, but even the way the muscles are around the face, because you know you'd be walking into a shop and you might say hello to somebody, and then all they're seeing is you staring at them for like 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's weird when you see people who are wearing the mask and they've got the wireless like earphones and you don't quite see them. That's fucking weird. You know those like wireless earphones?
I lost you there. Sorry, Rory. I lost you.
Oh, sorry. You know when you see people wearing a mask and then wireless earphones and those earbuds?
The pods,
you don't quite see them under the under the mask and stuff. So you just say, "Oh, what's the crack?" And they don't even acknowledge you, and you're like, "Oh, that's how it is." Rude, very rude. Yeah, it's such a weird.
I lost you there, Rory.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, fuck.
Is that a bit better? Me.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, that's the joys.
I lost you there for the last. Yeah, it was bloody Zoom.
Well, I can't even remember what I was saying. I was just saying it was a weird time. Essentially, it's such a like a couple of years from now, retelling the story to younger people, they'd be like, "This is like our troubles" or something. I think it's weird, man. It's very, very unusual.
It's a tricky one for the stand-up comedy gigs because you kind of need to be beside people in order for them to work. I think it's nice to be beside someone so that when they're laughing, it's kind of like one giant organism that's laughing at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you done much stand-up since the restrictions have been lifted? I don't know what the situation is.
None at all. I was meant to be doing one actually tonight in Ballina, in the Ballina Theatre, but it had to be pulled because of we're in level 5 now, so didn't get to do any. I was meant to do another one as well where they were meant to drive their cars into like a field and you'd be on stage and you'd have your microphone there and then they could tune into the station of the microphone. And if they liked the joke, they could beep and maybe flash the lights. But that would just, I don't know, that would feel awful weird, I think, if you're going around. Yeah. I think it'd be funnier if you could do the stand-up into everyone's car individually and just set in beside people and had a look around their car. Maybe you had a look into the dash or whatever and just have a chat with people individually.
Yeah, I think that would be brilliant. You know, there was a thing at the Belfast Comedy Festival a couple of years ago, and it was one-on-one gigs. So basically, like we're talking now, someone would just come into a room, and it was like speed dating, but for stand-up. So someone came into the room, literally sat opposite you, less than a meter, for 10 minutes, and you had to make them laugh, and then they would leave, and someone else would come in. Yeah. And I was like, mate, I would scare the life out of me. 2,000 people, I do no problem, but one-on-one, it's like a job interview, man. Like when you're trying to be.
You're serious? That's so weird. I actually would prefer it that way. I'd love to do it 2,000 people one by one because at the end I'd be like, I know this material so well that I could do it for anyone.
Yeah.
Do you know? I'd actually be more comfortable. It's a surprise now that you'd be more nervous for one person than you would be for what's the biggest crowds you've done? I suppose 1,000 in the Ulster Hall. That'd be.
Yeah. So I've done the Ulster Hall twice. I've been very lucky. I did our gig and then I opened for COLGAN when he did it, like a solo show. So that was slightly better in that I had more stage time in the second time, so I could relax a wee bit more into it. Whereas the first time you do it, I only had 15, we all did 15 minutes and it's a new room and there's this manic energy. So I didn't really know, I still did well, but you're like the crowd's so big that the laughs come from the back. So you say your line and be like, fanny napkins, and then it's like, and then a wave of the actual laughs. So I went on there thinking I'm going to do these 7 bits. I did 3 because you automatically slow down because of the size of the room. So yeah, I did like a hello, a quick bit, and then 3 bits, and then I was like, oh fuck, I'm done, and I had to bring on the next act. It was mental.
So you go slower the bigger the crowds, do you reckon?
To an extent. Well, I think there's definitely pauses because the laughs are bigger, and you know. But again, that's why I prefer bigger rooms. Of course we do, but there's something about being in a massive room as a crowd member because you're not afraid to laugh first.
Yeah.
You know, the way if you were playing to 13 people, there could be someone loving your set, but they don't want to be the first to laugh because they'll be embarrassed.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1,000's the biggest I've done. What about you?
I think the biggest maybe 650.
Awesome.
650, 700. Yeah, that was fairly nerve-wracking as well, actually. Yeah, but myself and Eddie Durkin and the Viper, we were over in Reading and Leeds before. Our manager at the time, she booked us in for like a few gigs in England. And she was like, oh, the Hardy Books, they're big in Ireland. And she sold us really well to the English people. And so they were like, oh my God, yeah, they sound great. So we went over to Leeds and Reading. And they're like, all right, guys, coming up now, we're going to have one of the Hardy backs. And nobody in the crowd said, like, there was not even a cheer because they'd never heard of us. But in the crowd, it was a massive tent. And in the crowd, there must have been about 2,500 people. But obviously, they weren't there to see us. Like, they were there to see, there was a couple of lads from 8 Out of 10 Cats and those kind of shows.
Right,
like,
right. Yeah.
Kind of like top tier English kind of comedian TV lads. But we went out there and I went out there and I was just like, all right, guys, how are you ready? And they were like, get a bit of a cheer, but it was just like there was pockets of people laughing in some spots. And then it was just very, very surreal because they didn't really know what we're doing there. So there was a nice liberty in that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like if a joke didn't work for that big group of people,
it
was just like such a weird feeling. It was like trying to balance 20 plates at the same time.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's difficult when you live here and you've got a certain voice and you've got particularly like I don't know, you've just got this vibe, of stuff. And then when you go to England, you almost need to change your entire set because you're like none of the stuff that I do back home would work because you've got references and turns of phrase and slang because we love our slang. Like there's so much slang. It varies from town to town. It's actually insane. Like we might as well have our own like another language.
Yeah.
So to go over to England,
same here in Mayo.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if there's like anywhere near you that you know that you could slag. You know what I mean? But if you did it in England, people would be like, I don't even know where that is. You know what I mean? It's like if someone from England came over here and did stuff about nectar points, you'd be like, don't really fucking do that, man. That's what you would almost need to change your set for sure.
That's the thing. I've often looked at my material from the past and I'm like, if I was American and I said that line, people would just look at me like I don't actually know what it means. So sometimes it's a double-edged sword because the more colloquialisms that you do use, the funnier you can kind of be to people around that area. But then if you want to crack America and England or wherever you want to crack, it seems like you have to keep a part of yourself there, but you also have to generalize it a bit more.
Yeah. What's like the weirdest slang from where you're from? Is there anything that's very distinctly
slang?
Something that like they don't say anywhere else or even just in that area.
Stop the lights. Do you see that?
What does it mean? Does it mean
stop the lights? Means like it kind of means hold on a second there.
Stop the lights.
Stop the lights.
No, we don't say that. Stop the lights.
What's the story, Scan? How are you getting on? Horses.
There's been sometimes you get the odd bit of horse up here. It's like, what's happening, horse?
Yeah, we see that quite a lot down this way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think because in your own county, you're always thinking everyone else in the country has the accent and not you. But for Mayo, I think we put H's into our conversations without knowing it. Like we might say stop or spiders, or it's more so like we kind of throw a CH into words that shouldn't be there in the first place.
Is there any slang down your way for genitals? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why I just came into my head there.
I'm trying to think. No, I don't know if we have anything specific, but like when it comes to genitals, we could, whatever we had close to us, we might reference the name of genitals by what's ever close, as opposed to actually having a word, if that makes sense.
Kind of. Give me an example.
Like, I can't even think now. Well, let me give you a different thing instead. So we have a lot of good sayings down this way. A friend of mine has a very good one. He says about like people who are too confident that even a hen can slip on frost. And it kind of means like anyone can get a bit too cocky for their own good and end up falling over. So
that's great.
One of many. Yeah. And we're good for nicknames. There's a couple of lads in our towns which like There's a lad called Head and Shoulders. God rest him. He's dead now, but he was born with no neck. He was just born with the head on his shoulders. So we called him Head and Shoulders after the shampoo.
Yeah.
And then there was, let me see, there was a lad in our town as well, and he was called Piss.
Piss?
Yeah, his name was Piss. Just Piss. And I don't know where he got the nickname from. I don't think it was from pissing himself. I just don't know where. I think he was always on the piss, but or on the beer. That. But then one day some randomer was in the town. He was like, "Hey, shit, come over here." He thought his name was Shit. He obviously got mixed up. And he goes, "My name's not Shit, man. It's Piss." So he was kind of.
That's amazing. Proud of there's a fella from my area, and he's called Asda Bag.
Right.
Because one night he was on the pints and he copped off with a girl, and they went to like, I think it was like behind the local Iceland, right? And you know, because romance and all that stuff to fuck her, and they were just about to get started.
Yeah.
He realized he didn't have any protection, so he improvised and he put an Asda bag around his dick, and that was it.
The fucking romantic bastard.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Hopefully he took the shopping out. That's what I'm hoping. Take out the Iceland products, because I don't know, like Iceland's one of those like supermarkets where you're like, where do you come up with this shit? Where you're like, $150 for a chicken tikka lasagna. You're like, get the fuck with that. And a boon
that's poison, that is.
Cottage pie, or like this weird fusion shite where it's like, here's a tikka masala pasty. You're like, get fucked, would you? You know what I mean? It's real.
Yeah, the Icelands, they never took off down in Mayo or like the west of Ireland. It seemed like I'd always have to go closer to Dublin or else up the north to see any Icelands at all. But Mayo, we never really had those. We have a place called Mr. Price. Do you have that shop?
No, Mr. Price?
Mr. Price. And he's just like a lad. He's like a young looking lad, and he's got a muscular body, and everything in there is a great price.
Yeah.
It's like €4 or €5 or less. And like you get everything in that you'd ever need, like lasagna packets, and you'd be getting flower seeds, you get shovels, you get batteries, but stuff that would only last you like 2 weeks.
Everything.
Like. AK-47s, exactly, yeah. Rocket launchers.
I love places like that, to be honest. Like I don't go there a lot, but I do enjoy just that there's no structure to it, where it's just like there's Jaffa cakes and there's toilet roll, and it's the same as like there's sort of versions of it in, I don't know what way you pronounce it. Is it Lidl or Lidl? You know that
Lidl, depending on the day, but Lidl.
I don't know if it's the same where you are, but it seems to be in the middle. There's like an aisle at the back, and it's just got shite that doesn't belong anywhere else. So it's like flip-flops, gazebo, chainsaw, egg poacher, jumpsuit, and then the fucking Arabic chicken nuggets. You know what I mean? And you're just like, why do we need this? It should be called just the random shit aisle, man. You know what I mean?
And it's full of lads down there who's kind of like they've dreams to start building stuff at home or start DIY projects.
Yeah.
But they're not confident enough to do it. I'm a great man for knocking around those aisles and be like, someday I'm gonna buy those workers' pants.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill them up with screws and nails. But first of all, I need to watch a video on YouTube about it, and then you go home, watch a video on YouTube, and then you end up watching some other shite that's on there.
Yeah, it reminds me of like, you know, those people that would back in the day go on Robot Wars. Do you remember that TV show, Robot Wars?
Oh yeah.
Because I was thinking about that show because obviously the lockdown we're having up north at the minute. I don't know if it's called the same where you are, called the circuit breaker. That's what it's called up here. They're like, it's a circuit breaker lockdown, which is like, I don't know why the name is. Obviously, it's just sort of like a wee mini lockdown ahead of Christmas. But the way they were like, we're going to introduce the circuit breaker, and just the way it was delivered, I was just like, it just sounds like those nerds that would go in Robot Wars.
Yeah, like a load of fire coming out.
Yeah, but it was always like the shittest thing where it was like, it's a Henry the Hoover with a potato peeler, just fucking sellotape to it.
Yeah. But the lads that were on that show, they were so into that show that I've nothing but respect for the people that into the show. But I kind of always got freaked out by the people that were in it. It's like, where was that place? Where was that? It was like a dungeon somewhere.
Oh yeah, it was like fucking nothing. They rented it from Fritzl or somewhere like that. It was just fucking
the
weirdest thing. And then
I got the feeling like that the there was something creepy going on down there. They were laundering money or something.
Yeah, it was definitely a front for the UVF or something. There was definitely something going on there. Oh my Christ. I used to watch that show. You know, like when you look back at some of the stuff you watched when you were younger and go,
yeah,
I liked it at the time, but I couldn't. I used to watch like
Not
Robot
anymore.
Wars and then Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and Fort
Wow,
Boyard and all that shit. And you're like, what the? You know what I mean? It's fucking.
Jesus, I never met somebody that watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer before. I know that your man Angel was that was the spin-off, was it?
It was a spin-off, yeah. But again, if I watched it now, even though I probably would rewatch it now, but I suppose it's that thing I was thinking about this, where it's like no matter what, when you look back at your previous self, you should always just look and go, "What a dick!" You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Even in terms of what you watch, what you wore, what you listen to, and you're just going, "How did anybody not just slap?" Do you know what I mean? Like even now,
slap the common sense into me a small bit. Yeah,
guarantee 10 years from now, if you watch this video back, you'll go, "What the fuck sort of jacket was I wearing?" You know what I mean? Or like, why did I have that? And you go, "Well, at the time it was good." Whereas, you know what I mean? It's so annoying, I think.
I used to watch. I used to be big into Dawson's Creek.
Really?
Don't know if you remember that show, but it was just cringy shite. I don't even know why I liked it so much, but I used to watch it all the time and never miss an episode. I think it was a distraction from the Leaving Cert in school, but I did cringe a lot when I hear that song, Sixpence None the Richer.
Oh, I like
So kiss me.
Oh, that one. See, I was thinking, I've never seen it. I'm trying to think. What's the theme to Dawson's Creek? Was it like
kiss me beneath the windy barley nightly?
Was that the theme to Dawson's Creek?
It might not be actually.
Yeah,
might not be. I know Joey, Tom Cruise's ex-wife, Joey, forget her second name. Joey Holmes, no, Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes, yeah, that's right. She got a lucky escape there, man, for sure.
Yeah. He's hiding out now, apparently, in the Hole in California. Have you heard about that place?
No, what's that?
It's like an underground bunker for himself and the leader of Scientology, Dave Nexinevage, or whatever you call him. But they're hiding out in a bunker that's like underground outside California, apparently.
And because of coronavirus or just in general?
They're just coronavirus. I think it was kicking off, and they're like, you know what, we're going to just go down to the bunker, chill out there till it's all blown over. So they're down there now eating tins of tuna and packs of ham.
They went to the American Mr. Price and got a load of cheesy singles and bleach. Do you know what blows my mind? I brought this up with Aaron McCann when I spoke to him. I always wonder, with places like Mr. Price and stuff, how skint do you need to be to buy some of these things where you're like, this is your only option? Have you ever seen breakfast in a can? Oh
no, I've never seen that. What, like a full Irish breakfast in the can?
Yeah, mate. And I thought Aaron McCann was going to vomit live in the podcast. I'll Google it now. I'll tell you what's in it. But I've seen variations of it where there's beans, mushrooms, pork and egg nuggets, sausages, and I have seen variations where there's Rice Krispies and a bit of milk on the top, all in the one fucking tin.
The sad thing is about that, Rory, is I probably would eat it.
Yeah, again, like it's your 5 a day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, get them in one good mouthful. Get your 5 a day. Get it out of the way, and then you can tip away at. All right. And where's that? Where did they sell that?
This is on the Tesco website, so it's.
I'll have to get a couple of tubs of that stuff into the house. Just stick a big spoon into it whenever I'm hungry.
So it's baked beans, sausages, mushrooms, pork and egg nuggets, and bacon.
Oh my God.
I was expecting a different reaction. I thought you were going to be like, that sounds disgusting, but now I feel like I've ignited a fire in your eyes, a twinkle in your eyes. Ridiculous.
I'm just trying to be honest with myself. I'm a great man for, I was vegetarian there last week for about 4 hours. And that was until I went back into, I didn't see it through. I broke at the first hurdle. I went into Tesco and I was like, okay, I'm not going to get any meat. By the time I left in, I had bought a big long chorizo.
I suppose you said there, I fell at the first hurdle, which was not eating meat.
Exactly, yeah.
But I suppose,
don't eat meat.
It's kind of like that thing, when people say, when it's like their Happy New Year resolution, they do all the stuff, they're like, I'm not eating any takeaways, any lemonade, going to work out, just eat chicken and broccoli. They last about a day, and then they spend like $2,000 in Domino's. it's kind of like that, where you're like, why did you decide to be vegetarian for 4 hours? Was it just a random thing, or is it something you've always kind of considered?
Because I'm like, you know, the way like with COVID-19 going on now, and everyone's got these different opinions as to how we should be living now, like, you know, with lockdown. So I'm like, oh, I need to start not eating meat because I'll save loads of money and I'll be healthier. So then I thought that'll be handy because then I'll only spend 20 quid a week in Tesco.
Yeah.
But then I went into Tesco and then I saw the meat and I was like, well, next time I'm just going to get a couple of slabs. I tried my best, mate. You know, and I told people about it. So like I did as much as I could.
You know, if you want, I can Google if there's a vegan or vegetarian breakfast in a can. Just saying.
Why not? Why not?
You can get a tin of spinach.
Popeye jab.
What do you reckon is the worst thing you've ever eaten when you were drunk? Have you ever had, like, you come home and you come up with some random invention where you're like, it'd be nice?
I used to have a cousin. Well, not we weren't drinking at the time. We were really young, but like he used to get drumsticks. You know those drumsticks ice creams. Or not ice cream, sorry, but the lollipops. Real sticky caramel stuff. No, they're like little drumsticks, like kind of like candy.
Yeah.
He used to get those and he used to dip it in honey and then he'd dip it in porridge and the porridge wouldn't even be cooked and he'd just start biting it off.
Fuck, that is weird, but I'd try it.
That is very weird. And he gave it, like he did that for every time I go to visit him, he'd do it and it really put me off him.
Yeah.
I kind of fell out with him over it almost because it was like, I couldn't believe that he'd stoop to that. Like, and I'd eat nearly anything sweet-wise, but that was just like a weird combination to be eating dry oats with honey and then the candy itself. So
have you spoken to him since, or are you like, you're dead to me, fucking dick?
No, I've spoken to him. I met him a good few years ago in Dublin in a pub. Yeah. And I brought up to him, but he was like, I don't remember any of that. So sometimes I was like, I wonder, did that even happen?
Yeah, no, he's lying. He still does it. That's why he's a grown man now, and he still does it. You know what I mean?
He's got a massive addiction.
Yeah, for sure, man. I've been really addicted to the. Have you ever had the orange twirl?
Yeah. That's nice.
Bro, yes, and it blows my mind that it's not available all the time. Like, what more? It seems like it's limited edition, or it's like from the 12th of July merchandise or some shit like that. Yeah. Where you're like, just have it all the time, man.
People don't want orange in their biscuit full time, though. I don't think. Like, Jaffa cakes are good, but I don't think they'd ever become fully commercialized because people like pure chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, well, I suppose I would tend to agree. I mean, like, there's few things that have orange. There's like orange Kit Kats and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think orange is the only thing you can get away with. I've seen there's a limited edition dairy milk blueberry. No, disagree with that, mate. I like blueberries. Yeah, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? That's 2 meals, man. Yeah, I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And coffee as well. I don't want coffee in my chocolate either. Something like mint. I don't mind mint.
Yeah. I suppose mint's a classic, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But would you be a fan of jam buns?
I was about to ask you about this because obviously it features quite heavily in your social media. I used to work in a Centra when I first moved to Belfast, and I always felt we did the best jam buns in the world. They were a quid. They're unbelievable. Okay. And at one point, I think I was eating about 4 a day. And do you ever just shit phyllo pastry? Oh my God, it's the maddest thing. Like, they're so indulgent where you don't realize how heavy a jam bun is till about 40 minutes after you've eaten it. And then you're
crying in the car.
Yeah, we were like, I'm walking slower.
Yeah.
Just so much weight
definitely.
Yeah.
That's the trick. That's the trick they play on you. You don't realize how heavy they are until like a little while later where you feel so sluggish, but it's just that they're so tasty. And like every time you go into a deli, it's almost the safest bet because sometimes you get real shit stuff in certain delis. Or like there's some really bad delis out there that need to up their game.
Yeah, 100%. They need to sort it out. And I know like your love of jam buns is all over your social media, but like, where did that come from? Is it just something that you're very passionate about? Where you're like, why are people still talking about Brexit? We need to talk about this jam bun situation.
Well, because I always did like jam buns, and I think I was like probably stuck for some idea to do one day, and then I was like, well, I love jam buns. Let's just talk about them. Yeah. And then probably had purchased 4 or 5 jam buns on that very day that I did the video, and then I just went from there. People seemed to like it because it seemed like everyone in Ireland could relate to it.
Yeah,
because everyone is like everyone's had an experience with the jambon. So
it's weird that like ham and cheese sandwiches are very popular at wakes and funerals, but they haven't upgraded the jambons yet. I think at my funeral, apart from breakfast in a can, I want just jambons. Could they do mini jambons? That's what I want to know. Is there such a thing?
They do mini jambons, yeah. But if you work out, I've done the math on it, and if you just purchase loads of mini jambons, it doesn't really calculate to the full size. So they're trying to catch you out by letting you think you're having a healthier treat for a quarter of the price, but really you're getting only half of the actual full jambon. So they are out there, but I wouldn't recommend them.
So you're better getting a standard jambon, go into Mr. Price, buy a machete and cut it into 4. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Or a fella who told me an inside secret. He works for a jambon company. He told me that they use the same jambons in the deli as they have in the freezer aisle. So if you go to the freezer aisle, cut out the middleman altogether, cook them yourself in your own oven. Bob's your uncle.
I've done that, a variation of that, in that I'm still quite sort of friendly with my ex-Centra manager, and they now stock cronuts. Do you know what a cronut is? A croissant donut thing. It's like a croissant donut. And it's like cream and all. You can get like chocolate versions of it. So when they put that on their Facebook, I messaged Jimmy and I was like, what's the crack with these cronuts? Do you have any available? And I literally walk down now and buy them. And he was like, we don't have any left, but we have the stuff for the freezer. So if you just want to fire it in your own oven, and I'll give you a bag. Mate, game changer.
Yeah.
Fucking game changer.
Yeah. And you're your own boss as well. Like you can check them as much as you want.
Yeah, that's it, man. I just love the fact that you have a mate that works in the jambon business. Like, is he a mate before your love of jambons, or have you befriended him because it's not what you know, it's who you know?
It's not what you know, it's who you know. And he got onto me on Instagram and he said, I see you like jambons. And he said, can I send you a box of them? So then he brought the box. I met up with him. And
you could buy drugs or something.
I know, yeah. He handed me the box and it was like a real drug if I got caught for that, like, but he gave me the jambons, then I was like, thanks very much for the jambons. And I was kind of confused as to what was going on, but he told me a couple of inside secrets, and we've remained very good friends ever since. He's going to be the best man at my wedding.
Inside secrets.
Exactly, yeah. We're going to get married. We're going to have a bouncy castle after, but it's going to be in the shape of a jambon.
That'd be amazing. It was just a jambon themed wedding. So instead of the bride throwing a bouquet of flowers, it's just flinging jambons.
Get Maureen down the local deli to do it for us because she's got a good throw.
Fucking hell. It's mad. You love jambons, but you have to love something. So
I love food. I love food, and I'm not a great cook, so going down to the deli is like the perfect world for me.
Yeah. What is So I think we'll finish on this. It's probably something you've been asked before. In terms of your your death row meal, what's it going to be for Owen Colgan?
I'd have probably like 2 jambons. I'd have
jambon off the side of jambon.
Jambon dip. No, I'd have spicy Southern Californian chicken. Or sorry, Southern spicy chicken, diced up. And then I have probably a baguette there with a bit of ham inside it. And then, probably a cup of Bovril.
the dinner of champions.
Oh,
you need something. Yeah. That's a dry feed though, mate. Where's the sauce? Do you ever have any sauce?
The Bovril is a bit of a mix, like just a mouthful of Bovril and then just tip it in top of the roll.
Yeah, you could dip it in porridge maybe at the end. And
yeah. Did you have Bovril growing up?
No, the only time I'd heard of Bovril was in a Billy Connolly joke. It was never a thing here. What is it? Is it like a beefy?
It's like a beefy kind of like warm drink that you have, and it was just like my mother used to always have it in the press, but she never used it.
Yeah,
she was always threatening to use it, but one day I made a cup of it for myself. But it's kind of like gone off gravy. It's not great.
Right, and is it
but people put it on bread as well?
And so it's just pure liquid. So you could you use it as a mixer? So could you do a vodka and Bovril?
We could do a vodka and Bovril, yeah, exactly, and just maybe a a dash of Red Bull to take the edge off it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great stuff anyways. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, it sounds minging, man. Anyway, man, I will I'll let you go. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did, of course. Thanks for having me on, Rory. Hopefully we'll see you along the way some for one of his upcoming gigs.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate, that we get something in the diary. I was supposed to have something at the end of what would have been next week, actually. But the circuit breaker lockdown's in now, so unfortunately not to be. So hopefully that's
it. When are you out of lockdown altogether?
It's 4 weeks, so that it kicked off there on last Friday. It kicked off, so we have a wee while to go yet. So I'm actually in Strabane this weekend too. So that's going to be interesting because obviously they're super into lockdown, and both my parents are sort of old and vulnerable. More so my dad. My dad has a stroke 2 years ago.
All right.
So he's still kind of recovering from that. But
can he leave the house or anything like that?
He can. He goes for like walks and stuff. He's still getting a bit of his mobility back. So he goes for wee walks and stuff. But he's actually got to the stage now where he'll go to the shop. He'll put on a mask and stuff if he wants to go get a jambon or some shit. He's actually got to the stage now because he's 70, so he doesn't give a fuck anymore. What he does is he can walk unassisted, but he's still just a wee bit slow. But what he does is he brings a walking stick. So when there's loads of cars on the road, he just puts a walking stick down and everybody stops for him. And he trottles across the road. And as soon as he gets to the other side, it's like he flings it up like he's in a Fred Astaire and just catches it and just danders into the shop and doesn't give a fuck at all.
The power of the cane. I'm tempted to get one anytime I go into a second-hand shop. I'm like, you get a lot of power with a walking stick.
Yeah, you get 2 for £1 in Mr. Price. I'm telling you.
That's my next purchase.
And thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I hope I wasn't too it's because it's doing a podcast is like I have to be funny now, and you're kind of like I'm like, is that light right for me, or like I'm looking at my own self there and like the lighting doesn't look as clear as yours. So
never worry, mine is still grim, to be honest. So it'll get there. But thanks again, man. I'll actually just end the whole meeting. Another way, there's usually a fake goodbye, but I've got another episode to do. But this should be out in a few weeks, so I'm going to do like I do like a wee promo clip and stuff, just like a wee minute sort of segment. So if you want to fire it on your story or whatever, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. If you send me a link, I'll do an out swipe up jobby.
100%, man. I appreciate it. And stay safe, wash your hands, and enjoy the jambons, mate. I'll see you soon.
Take care, Rory. If you're ever in Mayo, give us a shout.
I will indeed, mate. Take it easy. All the best.
Good luck.
See you soon, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.